Welcome to my Monday morning yoga class. Please be aware of your surroundings in your home as you move around and pay attention to how you feel as we move. And don't do anything that doesn't feel right. Know that it's always fine to rest or to modify any of the positions to suit you. So I'm going to start lying down. You're going to find a comfy position to lie on your back. If your lower back is a little bit tight, then knees bent and feet on the floor is fine. If your back feels fine, then try stretching your legs out. Feet together or feet wide on the mat. And arms slightly away from your body, palm face up. Closing your eyes if you're comfy to close them. When you take your attention inward into your body, the one thing that is always there is your breath. Allow your focus to settle on your breath. Feel how you've taken control of your natural breathing. And with that control, you can make your breath slightly slower if it feels comfortable to do that. Feel the expansion of your breath in and the contraction of your breath out. Imagine a balloon. As you breathe in, your balloon expands. And as you exhale, your balloon shrinks back down to that sort of soft bagginess that a balloon has when it's deflated. There's no need to rush your breath. Slowly let your balloon inflate. Slowly let it deflate. I'm going to move the arms in time with the breath. So starting with your arms by your sides. Keep that same pace of breath if that's comfortable, and then as you take a breath in, take your arms up towards the ceiling and then all the way over beyond your head. Let it be comfy. As you exhale, bring your arms back down by your sides. So we're lying on our backs, moving our arms in time with the breath. And then next time you finish an exhale, let your arms rest by your sides as you carry on breathing. Bend your knees, bring your feet onto the mat. Feet a comfortable distance apart. Take your arms slightly wider. Take a breath in here. And as you exhale, let your knees drop over to the right side. Breath in to come back to the centre. And an exhale to let your knees drop over to the left side. So you alternate each side. Your breath in brings your knees back to the center. Your breath out takes them over to the other side. So to make it even, you're going to finish on the left side. Next time you come up from that left side, leave your knees there. And then stretch your legs out along the mat. Legs together, legs resting on the floor, heels push away, toes pull up towards your face. Take your arms beyond your head. Stretch your fingertips out towards the wall behind. Maybe see, you don't have to have your arms on the floor, but see if your upper arms can come slightly closer to your ears. And then elongate from your fingertips to your heels. And then relax your arms and your legs. Bring your arms back over by your side. And then bend your knees. Knees onto your chest, hands around your knees, have a rock side to side. Come to rest at the center, bring your feet down onto the floor. Roll over onto your right side, we're going to make our way up to standing for our salute to the sun. A bit more headroom. So a moment just to think about your posture, standing tall, feet firm on the floor, flat on the floor, together or a little bit apart, and finding your full height. We're going to think about our hips today, and imagine that your hips are like a shallow bowl, like a fruit bowl or something shallow, and feel how your bowl is completely upright. So if your bowl were to tip forwards, feel how your lower back shortens and arches. And then bring your hips back to that balanced upright place again, bowl upright. Then see if you can tilt your bowl backwards slightly. The action that sort of is pouring out behind. And your lower back draws underneath you. So you can feel as you do that, bringing it back to the centre, you can feel that your lower back is attached to your hips. So when you tilt your hips, when you tilt the bowl of your hips forwards and back, your spine moves as well. It's attached. It can't do anything but move when your hips move. So we're going to think about that a little bit later on. Keep that upright for now. You're going to lift your arms up to the ceiling. So feet grounded. Upper arms coming closer to your ears again. And then look up. This time take your arms a bit wider as you reach them back. Relax your shoulders away from your ears. Lift the centre of your chest closer to the ceiling. Stretch your fingers out towards the back corners of the ceiling. And your feet back down to the floor. It's a big stretch of the front body. And then look forwards and reach all the way up. into a forward fold. So bend of your knees, look down at the floor in front of your feet, fingertips down onto the floor. Step your right foot all the way back to a lunge. Lift your chest, look forwards. Left foot back to down face dog. Tummy button to spine. Slide forwards to plank. Keep your tummy button lifted. And then place your knees gently on the mat. Front body lowers smoothly down onto the floor. Keep your elbows close by your sides. Roll your shoulders back. A lift of your chest. And then look back down at the floor. Push up to hands and knees. Tuck your toes under. And lift into down face dog. And then take a stretch of the legs one leg at a time. So one knee bends. The back of the other leg lengthens. And then swap over. And as you make that stretching on the back of your straight leg, can you feel as if you're stretching the whole length of the back of your leg, not just the calf, but lengthening the whole length of the back of the leg. And then both heels push down towards the floor. Weight on your left foot, look between your hands. Step your right foot through to a lunge. Step your left foot in line with your right foot, back into your forward fold. Relaxed shoulders, relaxed head and neck. A deep bend of both knees, hips down low to the floor. Keep your hips down low, but lift your spine. Look forwards and then straighten your knees. Reach all the way up, as high as you can, palms together. Keep the height as you bring your palms down to chest level. And then we're going again. So lifting your arms. Look up, reach back and wide. Forwards again, reach up to the ceiling. Forward fold. As much knee bend as you need. Left leg steps back to a lunge. Right foot back to down face dog. Tummy button to spine, hands and feet grounded on the floor. Smooth. Slide forwards to a straight line plank. And if you're feeling strong, your knees are going to stay lifted off the floor. If you would rather though, place them gently back down first. Then lower your front body down. Maybe you can land the whole of your front body at the same moment. Elbows close in. Roll your shoulders back, lift your chest. Look back down, push up to hands and knees. Tuck your toes under, back into down face dog. Tummy button to spine, hands and feet grounded on the floor. And then come back to thinking about that bowl of your hips again. So if your spine is straight, if you're trying to look for a long back, your hips want to be in the angle of your back. So the bowl of your hips will be tilted well forwards. And to allow your back to be even longer, you maybe want to tilt your hips a little bit more forwards. Then that frees your lower back. If your lower back feels like it's being pulled down towards the wall behind you or down towards the floor behind you, that's because your hips are pulling it back. Tilting your hips a bit more forwards will give you the sort of freedom in your lower back. So we're going to come back to that feeling. You're going to take your weight now on your right foot, look between your hands, and then step your left foot through to a lunge. Right foot forwards, forward fold. Deep knee bend, hips down low, and then lift your spine, straighten your legs, palms together, slide your palms down. And then the same with the breath. Breath in to lift up. Exhale, back bend. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, right leg back to a lunge. Exhale, down face dog. Inhale, plank. Option to drop your knees. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, lift your chest. Exhale, down face dog. So find a good position for your feet and your hands in your down face dog. Tummy button to spine. And then think about your lower back. Is it feeling like it's being pulled a little bit downwards? And if it is, then you're going to try and tilt the hips a bit more forwards. And you're going to do that from behind. So the backs of the thighs are going to push up in order to tilt your hips forwards. So you don't have to have straight legs to do it. You may find that it's a lot easier if you've got a bit of bend in your knees. So you can experiment with a bit of knee bend. But are feeling like you're pushing the skin on the backs of the thighs upwards in order to get a little bit more tilt, a little bit more angle of your hips. Lovely. And then weight on your left foot, look between your hands. Take a breath in as your right foot steps forwards. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, stand up. Exhale, palms to your heart center. Breath in and a breath out. We go again, a breath in to lift up. Exhale, up and over, back bend. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, left leg back. Exhale, down face dog. Inhale, plank. Option to drop your knees. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, lift your chest. Exhale, down face dog. Tummy button to spine, hands and feet feeling firm on the floor. So if your lower back is pulling down, sort of diagonally back and down, definitely a little bit of a bend in your knees. And then that pushing up to tilt your hips, pushing up through the backs of your thighs. Not to allow the lower back to arch though. Tummy button stays drawn in, but the backs of the thighs pushing up. One more breath there. Weight on your right foot, look between your hands, and then breath in, left foot through. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, stand up. Palms together at the top. Exhale, slide your palms down. Breath in and a breath out. Rest your arms by your sides. Just let everything settle for a moment. And then make any movements that you want to make. So you can shake your legs, you can do whatever you need to do. And then come back to standing tall. We're going to balance in a tiptoe position. So if you want to be off your mat, especially if you've got hard floor, that's a nice, slightly easier option. If you want to have something nearby to have a hand to, move to where you've got a wall or a chair, something like that. Slightly easier with your feet hip distance apart, because you've got a wider base. Slightly harder with your feet together. So take your option and know that you can change, but standing tall. So at your full height, you're going to lift your arms up to the ceiling. And imagine just, without doing it, imagine lifting up onto tiptoes. You almost get a lift up through your tummy. Keep that feeling of lift and then lift up onto tiptoes. So you have a choice how high you lift your heels. They do go pretty high. Take a breath in here. As you breathe out, just take your arms wide out to the side. Keep your heels lifted. As you breathe in, lift up again. And as you breathe out, keep your arms there, lower your heels down to the floor. This is your opportunity to move where your feet are if you want to anytime. So breath in to lift up. Exhale, arms wide. Inhale up. Exhale, heels down. Smooth, slow movements. Breath in to lift up to your full height. Exhale, arms wide. Inhale, lift your arms. Exhale, lower your heels. One more time through. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, keep the height, take the arms out to the side. Inhale, stretch back up to the ceiling. Exhale, heels to the floor. Rest your arms by your sides as well. And then we're going to lie down on the floor on our fronts. So once you lie down, have a moment resting. Make a pillow with your hands, one hand on top of the other to rest your forehead on. And then just make yourself comfortable. Take your attention to your breath for a few moments. So we're going to come up in a moment onto our hands and knees. But if you don't, if your knees don't like hands and knee position, then stay on the floor, stay flat on the floor, and I'll give you an option. If it's your wrists that don't like it though, come up onto hands and knees. You can always go onto your forearms, or you can go on knuckles as well. So it's only if your knees or your hips don't like that knee position. So coming up onto hands and knees, hands under your shoulders, push yourself up. If you've got, especially if you've got a hard floor, I've got a nice carpet and it's nice and soft under my knees, but if you've got a hard floor, you might want to make a little sort of pleat in your mat, or put something else, a cushion or something soft, so that you can then put your knees on that bit, because it is a bit tough on a hard floor with a thin mat. And option, if your wrists don't like it, onto your knuckles if you want to, or down onto your forearms. We are going to lift an arm up in front, so if you come onto your forearms, don't lift your arm right up here, just skim it, just skim your fingers on the floor instead. And then, yep, good. So staying on the floor, yep, Paddy is on the floor, excellent. So if you're on hands and knees, make sure that the distance between your wrists and your knees looks like it's the same distance as from your armpits to your hips. Then you know that you've got that nice square position. And you're like a tabletop with a leg at each corner of the table. So we need to use our core muscles to hold sort of the body between the shoulders and the hips steady. So tummy button to spine. And just a feeling that your spine is lengthened. So natural curves are fine, but no exaggerating curves, no letting your lower back soften down to the floor, no rounding of your upper back, nice and long, and broad as well, as if you're trying to make your table as wide as you can. And if you're lying on the floor, then still those same actions, tummy button lifting, feeling firm at the centre, you're going to lift your right arm straight out ahead. So if you're on the floor, you just stretch it out and lift it 1 millimetre off the floor. Lean a little bit forwards and you really start to feel your core working. So tummy button to spine. Hold it tight, stretch your fingers out. And then extend your left leg out behind, so it's the opposite leg. And as you've got the arm and the leg stretched out, with your heel pushing to the wall behind, your right fingers pointing to the wall in front, imagine that the ceiling has gently come down and the whole of the back of your right arm, the back of your left leg and your back is in contact with the ceiling. Everything flat. Beautiful. And then hand and knee back down onto the floor. Have a moment to recover. And then square up your tabletop again. So long and broad. Tummy button feels like it's sort of lifting up and supporting you from underneath. Press down through your right hand. Stretch your left arm out in front. So that gives you a bit of sort of feeling that you've got to tighten your belt a bit. That's good. If it doesn't, lean slightly forwards until you get that feeling. Breathe steadily. And then extend the right leg out behind. And as you extend it out behind, you have that feeling of the ceiling coming down again. Whole width of the back of your right thigh is touching the ceiling, not just the outside edge. Whole width of your back ribs. Back of your waist. And then hand and knee back down to the floor. Sit back in child's pose to give your arms a rest. And then coming back to that same hands and knees position. So feel the corners are nicely supported. It's almost like your tummy button has to do the supporting of the rest of your torso from underneath. Ground down through your left hand, stretch your right arm out in front, and then take the left leg out behind as well. So heel points back, fingers point front. You've got that flatness, feel the ceiling. Take a breath in here. As you exhale, take the right arm to the right, the left leg to the left, onto just the diagonal line, sliding along the ceiling. Breath in here. Exhale back to the centre. We're going to go again. Breath in here. Exhale to the diagonal. Breath in to squidge yourself up to the ceiling. Exhale back to the centre. One more time. Breath in here. Exhale diagonal. Breath in. Exhale back to the centre. Hand to the floor, knee to the floor. Have a moment. And then square up again. Tummy button to spine. Long, wide, flat back. Press into your right hand, stretch the left arm out in front. And then elongate the right arm, the right leg, back behind you. Feel the ceiling. Take a breath in. Exhale out to the diagonal. Inhale there to hold. Exhale to the centre. Breath in. Exhale out to the diagonal. Beautiful. Inhale to hold it there. Feel the ceiling. Exhale back. Got one more time. Breath in here. Exhale diagonal. Inhale. Exhale back to the centre. And then hand to the floor. knee to the floor, sit yourself back again. Have your arms wherever they get a good bit of rest. And then back up to hands and knees. This one easier on the arms though, so don't worry that we're going back up here. And knees wide apart, big toes touching, and hands a little bit forwards of your shoulders. And if you're lying on the floor, then you're going to stretch your arms out in front, your legs out behind, make yourself long. So whether you're on the floor or on all fours, you're going to take your left hand where your right hand is, replace it. Take your right hand out to the side. And then if you're on all fours, send your hips back towards your heels. They shouldn't reach. If you keep your left palm firmly on the floor, they shouldn't go all the way back. They should stop just before. If they do go all the way back, creep your hand a bit further forwards and then try again. So your right arm rests on the floor wherever it's comfy, head and neck rest. You get a big stretch as you pull your hips back, but left palm stays firmly on the floor. You get a stretch on your left side. If you're on the floor, as you press your left palm down onto the floor, you're going to stretch your left leg back towards the wall behind. So feel the stretch, breathe in, make the stretch as big as you want to feel it. And as you breathe out, maybe allow yourself to soften a little bit. One more strong stretch there. And then bring your hips forwards and up. Come back to your original position. So knees are wide apart, hands are forwards of your shoulders. This time right hand to where your left hand is. Left hand just out to the side slightly. So your right palm stays firm on the floor. You slide your hips back. Find the stretch. Let your left arm relax, let your head and neck relax. They can be wherever is comfy. But as you breathe in, right palm firmly down, both hips firmly back. Stretch on the right side. And then as you exhale, just ease off a little bit. And if you're lying on the floor, right palm down, right toes back. One more big stretch. And then hips forwards, back to hands and knees. Keep your knees wide apart this time, still big toes touching. And send your hips back on your heels. Rest yourself forward. So a wide-kneed child's pose. Forehead on the floor or making fists to rest your forehead on, whatever feels most comfortable. Your arms can be in front. You can clasp your arms behind your lower back if you want to. Or just let your hands rest by your heels. Whatever feels comfy. Bring your hands under your shoulders, lift your chest, bring yourself upright. We're going to come all the way up to standing. We're going to do standing postures facing the short edge of the mat. So I'll show you, I'm going to turn my mat this way. I know it's difficult in your own room to make sure you've got the right thing, but as long as you know where I'm going to go, that's half the battle. So come to stand towards the back of your mat. And then the left foot turns out, and your right foot takes a medium step forwards. So don't let it be too small. If you feel wobbly, take your right foot wider on the mat. The wider your stance is, the easier it is to balance. So don't be too wobbly. It's fine to go wider. Hands are going to interlink behind your back. So I'll show you what that looks like. And if your hands don't reach behind your back to hold together, you can keep them just in towards each other. If you've got anything, a belt or anything, you could hold a belt with a bit of distance. So I know it's difficult for some people to reach all the way behind. So with your hands on your lower back, you can feel that your left hip is further back than your right hip. So to correct it a little bit, this left front, very top of the right thigh, left thigh, top of the left thigh, moves forwards towards the front end of the mat. And as it moves forwards, grip the same heel, the left heel, back down onto the floor. It's like you're lengthening the front of this leg, and you can feel the leg starts to feel strong. So keep that feeling of front of the top of the thigh moving forwards, back heel digging into the floor. So your lower back starts to feel a bit more level, spine is lifted. Think about that bowl of your hips once again. We're going to tilt the hips forwards, we're going to hinge from the hips. So think of your hips as that bowl. Keep that action in the left leg. Tilt your bowl forwards. And as you slowly tilt your bowl forwards, don't let your centre of gravity come forwards. Try to push back, like your hips are pulling towards the wall behind as they tilt forwards. Back heel still firm down into the ground. If you get a bit of pressure on your right knee, your front knee, take a slight bend in it. Especially if your knee bends a long way, you know, if your knee over straightens rather, a little bend is good. Tummy button to spine. Float your shoulders up away from the floor. Lengthen your arms, lift your fist. So you're lifting your fist up towards the ceiling. It may not go far, that's fine however far it goes. Keep the push down in the back heel, keep the lift of your tummy button. And as if you had a soft foam ball in between your upper arms, squeeze it tight, as if it might fall out if you don't squeeze it tight. You can let your head and neck relax, but you keep your shoulders floating away from the floor and your tummy button engaged. Lovely. To come out, we're going to take a bend in the right knee. Release your arms, take your hands either side of your front foot. Pick up the back heel. Step your back foot, your left foot, in line with your front foot. So you're in a forward fold position. Take a good deep bend of your knees. Tuck your tailbone under, tuck your chin in. Roll yourself back up to standing. And then take a walk back to the back end of your mat. So this is Parsvottanasana. And do it on the other side. So the right leg turns out, left leg steps forwards. And remember, you can go wide with that left foot if you felt a bit wobbly last time. This time, front of the right thigh, it's pulled back, so pull it towards the front end of the mat. Rotates your hips round to the left. And as you pull it forwards, you dig the back heel into the floor. So get good strength in the back leg, hips feeling parallel, and then interlock your hands behind your back. Tummy button to spine. Think of the bowl of your hips once again. Take a breath in, and as you exhale, just tilt your bowl slowly forwards. As you tilt it forwards, keep the strength in the back leg. Keep your centre of gravity back. Maybe a little bend in your left knee. Do what feels right. Hinge as far as your hips will tilt. And when they won't go any further, float your shoulders away from the floor. Stretch your arms out, lift your fist up towards the ceiling. So squeeze of the shoulder blades, tummy button to spine, back heel digging firmly in. Relax your head and neck. Steady breath there. And then take a bend of your left knee. Release your arms, hands either side of your front foot. Pick up the right heel and then step your right foot forwards. Feet hip distance apart. I'm going to take a moment to forward fold here. So as much knee bend as you want, and let your upper body hang. Take a hold of the opposite elbow with each hand. Feel your feet grounded on the floor. Feel that attachment of the base of your spine to the sort of back of the bowl of your hips, and feel how the only way to let your spine hang looser would be to tilt your bowl a little bit further over. So use a push up of the back of the thighs to see if it will tilt just a tiny bit more. Release your elbows, excuse me, deep bend of your knees. Tuck your tailbone under, tuck your chin in, roll back up to standing. We're going to come back to the back of the mat once again. First warrior. So same position for the legs. The left leg turns out and the right leg steps forwards. Maybe a bigger stride this time, but again, if you want that more stability, right foot wider out to the right. Hands on your hips this time. But that same action, this left hip has rolled a little bit back to allow the right foot to step forward. So see what you can do to bring the front of this thigh forwards. And as you bring it forwards, dig the back heel into the floor. So the left leg is feeling really strong. Keep that strength. It's almost like the thigh is squeezed to bring the top of the thigh forwards and to dig the heel in. Hips as upright a bowl as you can find. They want to tip forwards. Try not to let them. Take a breath in. And as you exhale, bend the right knee. Go slowly, keeping the strength in the back leg. So the front of the thigh still pulls forwards, the back heel digs into the floor. So as you come forwards, it's like you're trying to keep your centre of gravity back. Bowl as upright as it can be. Have a look down at your right foot. You want your heel underneath your knee. If your knee is forwards of your foot, your ankle, then creep your foot forwards. Re-engage the back leg once you look forwards and then lift your arms. If you don't want to lift your arms, bring them back down onto your hips. If you lift your arms, shoulders stay soft. But try to take your upper arms closer to the wall behind. Come back to that back leg. Reground it. Take a breath in. Lift up towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, sink in your hips. Keep the same strength in the back leg. So another breath in, as if you're reaching the front of the body up towards the ceiling. Exhale, soften. One more breath in. One more breath out. And then as you breathe in, straighten your front leg. Bring your arms back down. Keeping your feet where they are, just turn to the left so that you're in a more comfortable position where you can have a couple of breaths. And then heel toe your feet towards each other. Come back to the back of your mat. Right leg turns out, left leg steps forwards, big stride forwards. If you had to slide your foot forwards because your knee was in front of your ankle, maybe go a little bit further forwards this time. And hands on your hips. Wide if you want that extra bit of balance. Right front of the hip rolls forwards, moves towards the front of the mat, back heel pushes into the floor. And your hips stay bowl upright. Feel the strength in the back leg. Tummy button to spine, take a breath in. Exhale, bend the left knee. So move with awareness, keep the bowl level, keep the back leg doing that same thing. Front of the thigh forwards, back heel digging into the floor. Keeping your chest lifted. Have a quick look down at your left leg. Creep your foot forwards if your ankle is behind your knee. And as you look forwards, reground the back leg again. Lift your arms. Try to keep your shoulders away from your ears. But fingertips as close to the ceiling as you can. Think about lifting your elbows up away from your shoulders. And then the upper arms closer to the wall behind. Check in with the back leg again. Take a breath in, lift up. And as you exhale, see if you've got a little bit more you can lower. Breath in to lift up. Exhale, lower. Stretch the arms, one more breath in. One more breath out. And then a breath in to straighten the front leg. Arms by your sides. Take that nice turn to the right. Have a moment there. Hands on hips. Heel toe your feet towards each other. And then take a lie down on your back. If you want to, when you get there, if your lower back feels a bit tight, First Warrior can do that to you. Then bring your knees onto your chest, have a little rock side to side. If your back feels fine, then just lie yourself on the floor. And again, bring your attention to your breath. Maybe feeling that balloon expanding and contracting. Bend your knees, feet onto the mat. Make our way up to sitting. So rocking forwards or rolling to your side, however you want to bring yourself up. We're going to twist. So I always encourage a block to sit on to twist. If you don't have one, big book, like a cookery book, something like that, or a cushion. Or nothing is fine, it doesn't matter. It just makes it a little bit easier. So come sit on your block. I'm going to sit sideways. And stretch out your legs. So it's another time to think of the bowl of your hips. It would like to tuck under. You can feel how your lower back wants to sort of stretch under, and that's your hips pulling it under. If you can somehow manage to get a bit more level with your bowl, it lets your tailbone, your sacrum, feel a little bit more untucked. Lets you sit up taller. And if you imagine, we're going to twist. So if you twisted with your back rounded, it wouldn't be the greatest twist. It's a lot nicer to be nice and upright and then make a twist from there. So doing what you can with your hips. And then you're going to bend your left knee. Bring your foot in nice and close. Take your right hand on your left knee and your left fingers or hand on the floor behind. So that's to push down on the floor to help keep that balance in your hips. And if your hips are balanced or as balanced as they can be, you can just lift tall. If it's a struggle to be sitting upright, taking your foot further forwards can make it easier to sit upright. So that's a good option if you do feel like you just want to rock back a little bit. So every time you breathe in, try to rebalance that bowl of your hips and lift tall. And every time you breathe out, take a turn to the left. So breath in, hips, a lift of your spine. Exhale, a turn to the left. You can look over your left shoulder. So move with every breath. Let it feel like if someone was looking at you, they'd know whether you were breathing in or breathing out, from the lifting up on the breath in, the turning on the breath out. One more breath in and a breath out. Gently turn your head towards your feet, stretch, unwind your body, stretch your left leg out. And then bend your right knee. So bring it in as close as you want to, it doesn't have to be all the way in. Left hand on your right knee, right fingers on the floor behind. So not to lean back into, but to help you to bring yourself upright. Breath in here. As you exhale, a turn to your right. So every breath in, lifting again. And every breath out, turning to your right, looking over your right shoulder. And the best way to turn is to think of the back of your right shoulder just moving into the space behind it. One more breath in. One more exhale there. Look towards your feet. Unwind your body. Stretch yourself out. So give your legs a shake maybe, if they feel like they need a shake. You can take a forward fold as well. So if you can sit nice and upright on your block without wanting to fall backwards, then you may want to get rid of your block. You may want to stay on your block though, it's fine. Makes it a little bit easier, gives you a bit of a head start of coming forwards. Another option is to sit just on the edge of your block, which is quite a nice one, almost like you're shuffling off it and getting that bit of lift behind, because it's all about tilting your hips. And if you think about that action of lifting it up behind, it's pushing back through the backs of your thighs, and that action here is what we're going to think about, just to tilt your bowl of your hips forwards. So on your block, sitting on the edge of your block like I am, or off your block is fine. And if you are finding it difficult to sit upright, try bending your knees as much as you want to. See if that allows you to sit up. Take your hands just either side of your hips. Find your sitting up place. And picture the bowl of your hips. So you don't have to have your knees bent, you have them wherever you want. You're going to see if you can tilt your bowl a little bit forwards. It doesn't matter what the rest of your back does. Just tilt your bowl a little bit forwards. If you take your hands away, if it makes you spring back, then leave your hands where they are. But if gravity lets you bring them forwards, bring them forwards. It's whatever feels right for you. And it doesn't matter how far you've tilted forwards. You're just thinking about whether you could tilt your bowl a few more degrees forwards. And what action would make it tilt forwards? So whether your knees are bent or straight, I think it's that action of pushing the tops of the backs of your thighs back, is pushing the back of your hips back, so they have no choice but to tilt. So as you breathe in, make that action, push back with the tops of the backs of your thighs, as if it's an action of coming all the way back and then over, up and over. So you work on the breath in, you push on the breath in and you relax on the breath out, so that you've got a bit more space then to push again on the breath in. So the only action is in the hips and the tops of the backs of the legs. Your upper back completely relaxed, your head completely relaxed. Take 2 more breaths there. So breath in to push back with the hips so that they tilt forwards. A breath out to relax. 1 more breath in. And a breath out. And then if your hands are forwards, walk your hands back up towards your hips. Bring your chin to your chest so that you can just easily then bring your spine back upright. Slide off your block if you're on your block. Lie yourself down on your back. Have your knees bent. And then bring your right knee onto your, your right outside ankle onto your left knee. Lovely. Slide your left foot nice and close in towards you. Right toes pull up towards your right knee, and where your right knee would quite like to move in towards your face, move it the other way, move it away from your face. So you're getting a little bit of stretch on your right hip. So if that feels enough stretch on your right hip, you stay there. If you feel you want a bit more, your left hand takes a hold of your right heel and takes the foot off the knee. So now your left hand is holding your right foot rather than your foot being supported by your knee. Your right toes are still pulled up towards your right knee, and your right knee still moving away from you. Your right hand can come and hold around your ankle as well if you want to, or it can ease the knee away. Wherever it wants to hold on is good. So maybe that's a bit more stretch in the right hip. Another option is to stretch the left leg out along the mat. And as you stretch it out, push the heel away, pull the back of the thigh down to the floor. So the leg is strong and stable. Still your right toes pulling to your knee, your right knee easing away from you. Keep your heel at its original height off the floor. And if you want a bit more, just work out where it would be good to move the foot. So I think it will be good to take it towards the wall behind and maybe a little out to the right. It's like you're bringing your heel closer to the wall behind. Trying not to let your knee move closer to the wall though. Right knee wide out to the right. So make any movements that make a good stretch in your right hip. And then try to soften your hips. Whatever action lets them relax. Maybe that relaxing action lets you bring the foot closer to the wall behind. If your left leg is straight, bend it again. And place your right ankle back on your left knee. So you're back in the original position. And then right foot back down on the floor. Left outside ankle on your right knee. Left toes pull up towards your left knee, and your left knee moves away from your face. So that's your first option. If you want it a bit stronger, your right hand takes a hold of your left heel, takes the weight of the foot off the knee, and your left hand can maybe guide the left knee away from you, or maybe can hold around the shin or the ankle, whatever feels good. Option to stretch the right leg out along the floor. Don't let the left knee come any closer to your face, hold it away. But guide the left heel, if it feels good, in the direction of the left shoulder, but not bringing it down towards it, keeping it at the same height, just in that direction. Softening your hips to allow them to move. So it's very subtle movements, it's not big at all. Bend your right knee, foot on the floor, left ankle onto your right knee, and then left foot down onto the floor. Take a rock of your knees from side to side. And then stretch your legs out. If your lower back is feeling a bit tender, then feel free to keep your knees bent though, with your feet on the floor. Gives your back a bit of a stretch. If you stretch your legs out, maybe take your heels as wide apart as the mat, but let your feet and your legs flop wherever they want to flop. Arms slightly away from your body, palm face up. Make sure your back feels comfy on the floor, so not overarched in your lower back, and your shoulder blades, your upper back feeling broad and relaxed. Close your eyes. Bring your attention back to your breath and back to that visualization of a balloon. A slow breath in, inflating the whole of your torso. An equally slow breath out, letting it soften. Don't rush your breath. You can make it slower if you want to. Make sure it stays feeling comfortable though. Still visualizing the balloon. And when you breathe in and the balloon expands, feel that expansion right out to your fingers and your toes. And gently reach your arms out beyond your head. Right towards the wall behind. Bring your legs together. Push your heels away. Pull your toes up towards your face. And then point your toes away from you. Release the stretch. Bend your knees. Bring your feet onto the mat. Bring your knees onto your chest, hands around your knees. One more rock side to side. Whatever action makes it feel like you get a nice bit of massage on your lower back. And then take one big roll all the way onto your right side. And then make your way back up to sitting. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining me today.